Hey guys, it's Courtney and welcome to my final day of my Mother's Day card series. Today I'm using products by My Favorite Things. I'm using the Bold Bloom stamp set, the All About Mom stamp set, as well as the matching die. I started off with a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock cut down to just slightly smaller than an A2 size card. And I'm just creating a background with my images here. I'm using a variety of colors of ink by Simon Says Stamp. I'll link all those colors on my blog. When I create a background like this, I typically start with my largest image and stamp 3, and then go on to my next largest, and then so on and so forth. Once I'm done with that, I'll take one of the smaller images within the stamp set and just fill in any areas that are blank. Each of these images, or most of these images, have 3 layers to them. I'm starting off with just stamping 2 layers, and then I'll save my 3rd layer for my embossing powder later on. Even though I'm using dye inks that typically dry to the touch fairly quickly, I will go ahead and set my panel aside to air dry for an hour or so before I move on to my embossing powder. You can heat set this as well, but I just prefer to let it air dry. That way my paper won't warp. Once all my stamping was done, I moved on to 4 different colors of glitter embossing powder by Wow, and I'll be stamping the center of the flowers with Versamark ink and heat embossing with different colors for each flower, and I'll also link the colors of the embossing powders on my blog as well. Once all my stamping and embossing was done, I took the largest mom die from the All About Mom die set and centered that on my panel, and I just used some post-it note tape to stick that down so that it didn't shift when going through my die cutting machine. I have the largest Gemini, which doesn't fit on camera, so I did go ahead and die cut this off camera, as well as a piece of fun foam with that same die. I wanted to make my letters pop a little bit, so I did take a black marker and just went around the edges of the die cut pieces of the cardstock. In the end, you couldn't even tell that I did this, so it's not really a necessity. I cut a piece of black cardstock just slightly larger than my panel and went ahead and adhered my panel to that using my Tombow Mono multi glue. The fun foam that I used does have adhesive on one side, so I'm doing a die cut inlay here, but I want my letters to be popped up. So I did go ahead and adhere my foam down first, that adhesive side down. You can also die cut just plain cardstock a few different times and just layer that onto, and you'll get that same dimension. Once my fun foam was down, I used that same Tombow Mono Multi Glue to adhere my die cut cardstock right on top of those letters. Next, I took a scrap piece of black cardstock, and I'm using one of the sentiments from the All About Mom stamp set, and I'm going to be white heat embossing this. The first time I stamped it, I must have had glue on my fingers, and my embossing powder stuck to areas where I didn't necessarily want it to stick to. When I tried to get that off, I just smeared more glue. So I did have to just flip that paper around and re-stamp my sentiment. Once my embossing powder was all melted, I went ahead and cut that into a strip, and I will be using Scotch foam tape to pop that up underneath my raised up mom on my card panel. In order to fill in some of those white areas, I did take some Nuvo drops and just drop those in random areas. And in the end, I added a little bit of sparkle with a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to the mom just to help that stand out just a little bit more. And that is it for today. Happy Mother's Day to everyone, and thank you so much for stopping by.